Today's lesson is lesson 4.9, Estimating Fraction Sums and Differences. What we're going to do today is we're going to add and subtract fractions by comparing them to 1/2. So today we're going to look at fractions and we're going to compare them to 0, a half, and a whole. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at them on a number line. So we're going to take some fractions. For example, 5/10, that's exactly a half, so that would be fit in the 1/2. But if we did, for example, 1/10, we could round that to 0 because 1/10 would be really close to 0. If we looked at a fraction like 4/5, if we did 4/5, it'd be right about there. It'd be much closer to 1. So we would estimate 4/5 at 1. So let's look at a couple fractions here. What we're going to do when we look at these fractions is we know that on any fraction, let's put into sevenths let's use tenths for example. We know that 0 is 0/10. We know that one whole is 10/10. And we know that 1/2 would be 5/10. So when we're looking at a number, for example, 6/10, we know that that's going to be close to 1/2 because 6/10 is close to 5/10, which is 1/2. What we can figure out what is half of a fraction is whatever the denominator is, half of that number would be half. So 5/10 is exactly a half. So 6/10 must be close to half. So let's start by looking at 1/7. 1/7, one whole out of 1/7 would be 7/7. 0 would be 0/7. Half, well, half of 7 is 3.5. That would be half. So 1/7 would be closest to 0. So we would round that one to 0. Seven-eighths. So 7/8 would be closest to 1. Because 4/8 would be half and 7/8 is closest to that. 3/5 would be closest to half because 2.5 would be half. 7/15 would be closest to half because 7.5 would be half. 9/10 would be closest to a whole, and 2/13 would be closest to 0. So let's try a couple problems. If we had the problem 8/9 plus 10/11, 8/9 is very close to 1. We know this because 8 is close to 9. So we would round that as 1. 10/11 would also be close to 1, so we go 1 plus 1 equals 2. So we would estimate that problem at 2. Okay, look at 4/10. That would be close to a half because 5/10 is a half. So we're going to round that as a half. 1/6, that's close to 0, so we're going to do 1/2 plus 0. So we would estimate that at 1/2. So that's all you have to do for today's lesson. Remember, think about the fraction. Split the denominator in half. So for example, 17/32. Split the denominator in half. Half of it would be 16/32. So we would say that that is close to half. That's all you have to do for today's lesson.